Good morning. This is Dwight Colby Smith in Richmond, Virginia. And I was going to write this out, and my mind keeps going, how do I begin? And I started with this, and then I went to starting with this. I decided I think I'll just do it this way, and I don't have to follow a way. I can just let the Spirit, the meditation of me speak. So the title is A Bigger God. And that's where I don't know how to start. So I'm going to start with this, and the other will come in. At the beginning of humankind, the world was perceived flat. And this is the greatest example I can give. This is about opening our concept to a truth bigger than the truth we now believe, or the one we've been taught to believe, or the one that we have found on our own. But I don't think we would find the concept of God we have on our own. Anyway, so the world was thought to be flat. And 1492 years following the resurrection of the Christ of Jesus, the Father of Jesus. Columbus is acclaimed to be the one with Amerigo Vespucci, I think is his name, the Italian who checked the map and saw that, oh, he went over the edge, so between the two of them, the world has been found to be round. And now we have satellites and we have cameras that show us the world, the round world, the world that's a sphere, as to the point where there's no more doubt. But in the process of 1492 to 2018 and earlier, we were seeing proof all the time that the world was round. But there was still the transition, those who believed it was flat. And they maintained that belief. And they argued that belief. And people died because they defied or denied that belief. And now we know it's common. Okay? The passion in me wants us to realize it's the same thing about this concept of God. That we have interpreted the Bible, inspired by God, but written by man, as the, quote, gospel. And all I want to do is to bring a different dimension to the Bible. Well, no. Yeah. I don't remember the quotes now, but it says, in the beginning, Genesis 1:1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. They were void and without form. Just stop there, okay? Period. This God cannot be an entity. It's not a magician. This God is the very space of the universe. Just think on that. There was a time when there was nothing in the universe but space. And from this space, all of creation has come. So space has to contain everything that's needed for form to become form. It needs to be the life of it. It needs to be the conscious intelligence of it. What do I want to become? Although I think it's more that from within the consciousness, some other consciousness arises. At some point, not in the beginning perhaps. I think consciousness evolves itself into form. It begins as no thought. And something sparks this thought. And this thought sparks all the energy around it. Perhaps ever expanding. I don't think the beginning began with, I'm going to create a Dwight Colby Smith, and therefore I have to create an environment for him to live in, and I have to create everything that that environment needs. So he's going to need to eat, he's going to need to be comfortable, he's going to need to be protected from all the other life that supports him. Some of that life may be harmful to him because I'm just creating a garden for everything to exist for him. And everything has to exist for everything in the garden. Everything feeds from the source of itself. So in order for Dwight to exist, I have to create food for him. Shelter and protection. In order for that to happen, I have to create a sun. I have to create a moon. I have to create water. In order for this environment to live for Dwight, it needs other environments. So I create all these planets. Now, I can't imagine God thinking or creating that way. Okay? I do believe that I am created from the consciousness of the animal consciousness of Earth as separate, distinct, and individualized from the vegetable consciousness. And they both interact for the consciousness of the Earth. And then I believe I was created from the mammal species of the animal kingdom. And then the human element of the mammal element. And from that I individualize myself as Dwight Colby Smith, as everyone is individualized as their name, coming from the one consciousness. So this space must also contain life that animates itself into form. So it's a conscious intelligence, life. It must have some law through which it comes from the invisible into the visible. There must be some law that takes the consciousness into form. And it can only be one law, it can only be one power. Because it is before anything begins, so it's the power before any power exists. It's a power from which all power comes. And we can see this power as a power of judgment and separation and control and punishment and all that. And the Bible supports that idea. The Bible supports that we should be afraid of God. We should fear God. We believe that that word was misinterpreted of fear when it should be awe. We should be in awe of God. And in that awe, we should feel humble because all of its life, all of its power, all of its intelligence, all of its love is what lives through me as I direct it. But it's available to me. It's who I already am. Each of us is already God. Each of us is already Christ. Each of us is already bliss, nirvana. That part of us is infinite and eternal. That part of us that has no life, that has no ending and no beginning. Okay, so that's a concept of God. 2018 years ago, a new idea, a new concept of God was born upon our world. And just as Columbus revealed the world to be round, after centuries of many generations, it was found to be true, universally accepted. The world being flat never changed. The world being round never changed. And so Jesus came with a new concept, creating conflict among the interpretations of his life. First, seeing him as the only Son of God so limits God. God's the creator of all things. You and me and all the world, the trees, the animals, the vegetation, the water, everything is God. And God is not going to judge any part of his world as imperfect as God creates. God just creates with free will. Everything has the freedom. The massive consciousness that the earth was born from could have been anything else. It could have developed in any other way. It could have developed as Mars or Venus or any of the other planets, but something about Earth made it special. Some consciousness of Earth created this to the point where humans can live on it. And humans, when we realize that we can create as God creates, that our conscious thought is available to become whatever I want it to become. Jesus chose for it to become the Son of God. He chose to find, I am the creator of my life. Everything that I think, say, and do, I have created. But not me, not the physical me. The physical me is just giving and receiving the idea from my consciousness, and I choose the ideas it gives me. So I can choose ideas of love, or I can choose ideas of hate and anger. I have a choice. Conscious does say, oh, no, don't do that. God doesn't damn the vine for killing a tree forever. Come on. So the God of nature, which I call the unadulterated God, is the God of us. Jesus showed us that this God sees no sin. It just sees itself as creating. And as we learn in Genesis verse 7 of, no, on the seventh day, God rested and looked back on his creation and saw that it was good and all good. Now this isn't God as a human being looking at its art or its craft or its job and saying, did a really good job. Now humans do that, but God doesn't do that. God does it through the human. So if I'm loving it, God is loving it. If I'm not liking or judging it as anything less, God judges it as less, or, But all the way, God isn't seeing it as less. He's seeing God as perfect. God allows me to see it as imperfect because it knows it's perfect. It doesn't have to change anything. I'm the change of my life. I am the change of my world. You are the change of your world and your life. So I hope this has meaning, and I hope it gets passed on, that there's a bigger God than the God we've been told to believe. One of the ways I read Christ's letters, and if you want to get in touch with me, it's chapelinthesky@aol.com. chapelinthesky@aol.com. No walls, no ceilings, no floors, no boundaries, limitlessness, infinite infinity through the medium of the technology, the evolving technology of our world and our consciousness. We are always evolving something because we're creative, just as we are the Father. You know, the Father is us and the Father is creating through us. I'm assisting the Father to bring forth the kingdom of heaven. Jesus said, this is what we're meant to be. This is how we're meant to live. Without fear, without fighting, without wars, we're to live in brotherly and sisterly love as equal co-contributors and co-receivers of our world, of our energies. I don't just believe this, I absolutely know this. And just as the early scientists, Galileo, I think, was the first one to prove scientifically the world was round, but he was either imprisoned or killed. I think he was killed. I'm pretty sure he was put to death. And that's kind of what goes on with the old church, the old religion. The believers in a God of judgment and punishment. Their way of doing it is to control it by punishing and hurting and being unloving. I mean, that's the only word I can use. The Antichrist. You know, anyone that's unloving is the Antichrist. Because the Christ is all about love. The Christ is all about giving and receiving in equal, fair trade, honest, authentic. It's for us to realize and then start appreciating ourselves. Because the Father has given us the kingdom. The Father is the kingdom. We can't create anything we don't first think of. So if we think of ourselves as the Christ being, as the God revealed, our second coming, our second rebirth is a realization. I'm a spirit. I'm not a human being with a consciousness. I'm a consciousness as a human being. And it has infinity of ideas, possibilities available to my mind. And one of those is a world of love, a world of peace, a world of harmony, a world of coexistence, a world that Martin Luther King Jr. attempted to bring forth and was the seed for it coming forth. The women's suffrage movement of equality. The Native Americans calling out for respect, to be treated like people. For those of, I don't know the words, so I'll just have to use the word that we don't like, the heritage of slavery. We all have to be freed of this. We all have to be forgiving and forgiven. We have to get out of an us and them. We've got to come into a we. We the people. Not of the United States of America. Yes, we are the people of the United States. We are the people of Canada. We are the people of France. We are the people of the planet Earth. We are the people. It's up to us to make a world that all can live in and enjoy and appreciate, feel safe. And this can happen before December 31st, 2018. I guarantee it can happen. All it takes is to go beyond the Jesus we've been told, go beyond the God we've been told, go to the truth that everything comes from space. So space is this God that we call it. Christ says we come from that, from which all things come. From that. What is that? It cannot be an entity. Yes, the earth has its own consciousness, but there's a consciousness of our solar system and every element, every individuality within our solar system. And our solar system is only one entity, one individuality of this massive galaxy we call the Milky Way. And it exists in a space of possibility and potential of other galaxies coming into being. God is limitless. God is infinite. God is eternal. God is all that is. It's never God and something. It's always God as. Everything is God expressing through, life expressing through, just breathing through us. The air around us doesn't stop at our skin. It goes all the way through ourselves. We are living this space. We give this life to the space, and this space gives life to this. This space is the life of us. We cannot separate ourselves from God. We cannot separate ourselves from death. Even, and this some can believe and some can disbelieve, even after death, life continues. Life exists, consciousness exists, consciousness takes on this particularized form known as Dwight Colby Smith, and at the end of this form's joy of being here, it's released back into the life that it was before it was Dwight. Why does it make this experience? Well, life has no emotion. Life only has love. Life only has perfection. Life has no judgment or anything. So I think we come onto this plane so we can experience love. You know, love making between consenting adults is the most beautiful experience. It's ecstasy. It's the closest we can come to that feeling of what God really is. And in that ecstasy, it's a giving, receiving, and equilibrium of each other that brings that greatest epitome of joy, of release, of satiation, of climax and orgasm that emotionally can continue on forever. When we touch that part of God and know that's who I am all the time, I can always be living in this orgasmic kind of life energy, you know, just this ecstatic high on love, to love everyone. I used to think about Jesus. What would it be like to be inside of Jesus, to be his consciousness, his mind, to feel what it feels to have the peace that he feels? And so I do that. I've been doing this for over 70 years. I think I began at age 10. From 4 to 6, I had my alone time in the womb of tuberculosis in a sanatorium where I had little adult supervision to give me their ideas. I had to come up with my own. And fortunately, mine, although they are denied by the society I came into, I knew their reality. Something in me just knew there's a part of me that's God. And that was just intuitive, and nothing has been able to take that away. Many have tried to pray it away. That doesn't work, you know. If you want to pray for me, pray for my highest good. That's always our prayer. So I've rambled on this for a while, and I apologize for that. I meant for it to only be 10 minutes, but anyway, if you're open to a bigger God, I hope this has made some food for thought, some nurturement and nourishment if you're already on this path, and to increase our understanding, because it's always increasing. How much of God can I be? As much as I can imagine. So I've got to go beyond my imagination. And that's what the Bible did for me. That's what Jesus did for me. If I want to find the truth, I have to keep seeking the truth. I'm satisfied with the truth I have. I've never been dissatisfied with any other truth I've had, because every other truth, when I believed in Jesus' sacrifice for my sins, I believed that. But a larger part of me didn't believe it. They didn't believe in a God that would punish everyone even if they didn't know Jesus. That just didn't make sense. Regardless of how the Bible is interpreted, when I get into Jesus, like, no, there's no way the God of Jesus would say, I love you because you're like me, and I don't like you because you don't like me, or you're not like me. No, Jesus shows that's not the way God is. God loves everyone. We're taught to love our enemies because in God there are no enemies. I don't know if I say it exactly the way that I saw Abraham Lincoln say it, but Abraham Lincoln says, I just used a different word. This is a word I keep getting hung up of. I overcome my enemies by making them my friends. And the word overcome is different. He used a very strong word there. It's almost like I beat my enemies by making them my friends. And isn't that true? It's pretty hard to hate someone who loves you, you know? I mean, it still happens because that love infuriates them because they don't have it. And they don't think it's a possibility. And they think it's wrong to love for yourself when you're loving the God of you. So if you want some encouragement and you're a traditional Christian especially, I encourage you just read the 4 Gospels of Jesus, one right after the other, and see the truth that's there. Just be open to a greater truth than the one you have. Everything we've been told is all interpretation. And even some of that misinterpretation is because it's been misquoted. So many translations of the Bible, much of the Bible is translated from the Greek instead of going back to the Armenian, I think it was, of Jesus' day, the language that Jesus spoke. So, you know, and then there's all interpretations on top of it, each one calling themselves right and all the others wrong. Do you see how one God cannot create that division? One God creates all of it. We call it division. God creates harmony. So in the war, there's harmony because there are 2 sides claiming they're right. And both sides have life and have God. God doesn't say, these are the good guys and these are bad guys. God sees, these are all good guys. They're playing a game. Oh, have fun. Enjoy it. Because God doesn't have the emotion of anger and hatred and revenge. It has compassion without judgment. It has compassion without making a right or wrong out of any situation. So again, thank you for all the wisdom that I've heard from this. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to hear it and share it with you. And I thank you for doing with it whatever you want. And if you'd like to converse with me, chapelinthesky@aol.com. And I encourage you to go to my YouTube channel, which is the same thing, Chapel in the Sky, with hyphens between the words, and the hyphens are necessary. And then you have to look for my picture. It's a very sweet picture. It happens to be a picture taken when I was looking at my wife. So the love that you see is the love I have for her and the love we have for ourselves first. That's why Thelma and I are so awesome, because we've found the God within, the Christ within, the love that we are. And we live it, we breathe it, we share it. God bless you, God bless you, God bless you. Thank you for being with me.